I bought my 8x8 Mastermorphix through Amazon. It was not quite $50 before tax, but it was $50 after. I never do a box piece to my videos, but this has a really cool box. If you touch it, it actually almost feels like the actual puzzle. So it's pretty cool. So I can pull mine out so we can see what it looks like. And it looks just like all the other ones, except for it's 8x8. Obviously, you can guess that I've already looked at it. My only dilemma with mine is that, see this piece here? It's missing the plastic piece. Like you can see that those are there and all these other ones are where they're supposed to be. So I called and asked, or I emailed and asked if they could send me another piece to put it in, and they said, no, you just have to return it. Well, it's not worth returning. It wasn't that big a deal. You can see that all the other ones are there. But here's a 8x8 Mastermorphix. So here are triangles inside triangles. Those are all the sides, and then here are the centers. So yeah, definitely a good solve. So whenever you solve the 6x6 or 8x8 or the 4x4 and you do the checkerboard pattern, it changes things pretty dramatically on this, and there's an extra step. I'm going to show you what I mean in just a second here. So let's go here. It's every other row, and then I turn it and I go every other row, and then I turn it and go every other row. And I don't know why, but if you go back a row, then it finishes the pattern. So you, instead of doing 3 every others, you do 4. And then you get some pretty cool patterns with whatever was there before. Put that up. And then if I do exactly what I just did before, up, and I do the opposites of it, obviously it goes back into place. So there's some pretty cool things in there. But then if I choose to do another version of that, the same thing, and I picked a very specific corner to do it in, and then so I'm going every other one, I do each corner, and then I go back. So now the colors are pretty cool this way too. So those are really the 3 different cool patterns just from one solve by doing the checkerboard pattern afterwards. And I don't know why it works for the 4x4, 6x6, and 8x8, where it doesn't do it with the 3s, 5s, 7s. But anyway, some pretty cool solves. So try doing that every time you solve something to see what the pattern looks like afterwards. It's pretty darn cool. So this pattern took a whole lot of time to do. You'll notice it goes green, red, blue, yellow, green. So there's a pattern in the centers that's pretty cool in each of the centers. And then looking at it from a side face, or a side view, or a face view, I guess, it's pretty cool the way it breaks up the triangles here. It has kind of a fun look to it. But another neat thing that happens is when you do the flip-flop. So I'm going to flip-flop here. I'm going to go green, starting it from the green corner, and then yellow, and then red, and then yellow one more time. Again, I don't know why there's 4 sets of flips. I was playing with my traditional 6x6 Rubik's Cube and looking at about what happens, and it leaves one side resolved, but anyway, that has nothing to do with it. So here we still have the really cool centers like we did before. It's kind of interesting that the greens and yellows and reds are right together like that. But the reason this is kind of cool is that it breaks it up here with different colors of rows here, which I think is kind of cool. The only dilemma is that the pattern doesn't keep going. So like over here it goes yellow, green, red, blue, yellow, green. That should be red, then that's blue, but there's no way to make that happen. But I actually think I like this one better than the original solve. This is an iteration of the last one I just did, and I'll show you that. It's simply the flip-flop. Looking at from here, it's just, I wish I could say I made this pattern totally on purpose. I didn't, but I love it. So it's simply the back and forth of all those other ones. This is back and forth. So this back and forth now looks like the one from before, which is still amazingly cool. And then I do the last back and forth. And this was the original solve that I did. So for each solve, you can do the flip-flop in 2 different ways that get you back. There are different patterns. So this is the solve that I spent a lot of time, probably the longest I've done any of them. It's the same one as before. So that's pretty cool that it has 2 really cute things that you can do from here. It took me way too long to get this done, where I have yellow, green, red, blue, yellow, green, red, blue, and those stripes. And then there's another set of stripes. So I originally spent a lot of time rearranging them to match up so that this red was here with a different red here. Those matched up. So I spent a lot of time doing that. So it took me about an hour, hour and a half to get done. But then when I realized when I was done, doing every other pattern or every other row simply got me to this. Had I known that, I would have worked towards this pattern after just solving it normal and then changed around to this pattern, which is easy to get to, and then going every other. I would have been done a lot faster. So just a interesting, fun solve. I learned from my mistake and was able to make the layers, like this one has blue, red, green, yellow, blue, red, green, yellow. And so there's the stripes all the way all around. And I learned from my mistakes. It only took me about 15 minutes. I solved it to here. I solved it to this pattern and then did every other one like I learned with the traditional shape. So this solve is every other piece switched places so that every other one is switched to this one and this one switched to that one and that one switch. It makes kind of a cool pattern. But the cooler pattern is after you do the flip-flop on it. Remember that with the even puzzles, even layered puzzles, so this has 8 layers, the 8x8, if you do the flip-flop on them, you get really cool patterns on your solve. So I'm going to do this off this corner. I'm going to do flip-flop on green, then yellow, then red, and then you come back on yellow. You'll see what really cool thing we get when we're done. So I'm moving off the green. And then I'm going to move off the yellow. Then red. I think I missed one. No, I got it right. And then once I line them up, I do yellow one more time. And see what totally cool pattern is left there. Kind of that. So it's the checkerboard pattern with the different colors offsetting them, and then when you have the every other, it just makes it look pretty darn cool. So I'd say this is in the top half of cool puzzle solves I like. Here's another version of that. Kind of cool. And here's the last version of every other color. Still pretty cool looking, if you ask me.